You have probably just started going to the gym, and you're faced with the all-important question: should you start eating less to lose body fat, or should you start eating more to put on some muscle mass? In other words, should you cut or should you bulk? Choose your answer now. Wrong. You should have chosen bulk, unless you did, in which case, congratulations. A lot of beginners have the idea that before they can put on muscle, they have to lose body fat first. If you're incredibly overweight or actually obese, yes, this is the case, and you probably should lose body fat before you do anything else. But I've spoken to so many guys in the gym, young and old, who are only slightly chubby, skinny fat, or quite frankly, just skinny, who are all sub 20% body fat, who tell me they're cutting before they try to put on muscle mass, so that they have a foundation for which they can put on muscle mass, as though fat is somehow a limiting factor in the amount of muscle mass you're able to put on. But let's think about it first of all, before we get into any other arguments. Let's think about it logically. You're gonna go cut so you can see your abs, so that once you've reached that foundational point that you're talking about of being skinny, to then have to bulk up again and lose those abs that you've just worked so hard for. See, what you're doing when you're a beginner and you choose to cut is you're actually limiting one of your biggest advantages you have as a beginner, and that's your newbie gains. As a beginner, your body is hyper responsive to putting on muscle mass. You can slam on muscle so fast that you can literally change the entire way your body looks in just a few months. When I started, I had no muscle, and after 2 months of training, this is what I looked like purely from newbie gains. You will never have the ability to gain muscle so rapidly ever again in your training, unless you go to the dark side. One of the biggest factors which contributes to muscle gain is your caloric and macronutrient intake. And if you aren't getting a sufficient amount of calories and protein in as your building blocks to build on those muscles, you're not going to be able to reach your full potential of the muscles that you'd be putting on otherwise. Cutting will literally hold you back from putting on muscle. And if you're worried about getting too fat, there's an incredible side effect of muscle gain in that it increases your metabolic rate. What does that mean? It means when you put on more muscle, by simply existing, you burn more calories, and so you will lose body fat as a byproduct as long as your calories don't increase too excessively. But don't look at bulking as an opportunity to just eat whatever you want and hope you gain some muscle along with all the body fat. Instead, you should try to up your protein and make sure your calories only slightly exceed your total daily energy expenditure. Because there's so much information, it's difficult to understand diet as a beginner. A lot of beginners either eat way too excessively and just eat absolutely everything that's in front of them so they can try put on as much muscle as possible and just end up fat. Or they eat a crash diet of nothing but chicken, broccoli, and rice because their favorite celebrity said that's what got their movie ready, which causes them to eventually fall out in a massive binge where they overeat for a weekend. Instead, we're gonna look at it like this. Go online and find a TDEE calculator. That's Total Daily Energy Expenditure. They're free and easy to use. You just put in your details, your weight, your height, your age, how much you're training, what your activity levels are, your estimated body fat percentage. You don't have to actually worry about that, and base the calculations off of that. This will give you how many calories you likely burn in a day, or your total daily energy expenditure. Now, this is how we're gonna work out how you're gonna eat. If you look something like this, sub 12% body fat, in other words, you're very skinny, you're gonna take whatever it says your total daily energy expenditure is, and you're gonna add anywhere from 300 to 500 additional calories to that day while training hard. If you are, however, anywhere from 25% body fat and upwards, then you will need to reduce your calories to 200 below your total daily energy expenditure. That'll help you lose the body fat, but hopefully not lose too much beyond that. But if you're in the middle section, somewhere from being skinny fat to slightly chubby, so anywhere from 12 to like 20 something percent, you can just eat slightly more calories than your total daily energy expenditure. If you're at the lower end, just eat slightly more, maybe 100 extra. If you're at the higher end, maybe just eat what you normally would eat. Eat the same amount of calories that you normally eat. And you can just work out based on that caloric consumption, and your body composition should change. All you need to worry about for the time being is the amount of calories and the protein you're getting in. Diet can be a deep rabbit hole that you go into if you start researching it, so don't worry your little brains about it. However, I've been working on a video about diet since April, and so hit that subscribe button if you want to see that in the future when I eventually get around to releasing it. Now aim to get 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, preferably from lean meats, eggs, maybe even whey protein. Protein is the building block to be able to put on more muscle tissue, and so it's important that we get enough of that. Even if 1 gram per pound of body weight is overkill, it will end up satiating you more burn more calories in trying to digest it, and therefore make it easier for you not to slip up and overeat. This may make it slightly more difficult for the skinnier dudes who are eating a lot more calories to try bulk up, but it means once they've reached their protein goal, they can fill it with sort of whatever they want.
Well, what do I do if I use the metric system and I don't know my body weight in pounds?
I'm glad you asked. Just take your weight in kilograms and times it by 2.2. That'll give you your weight in pounds, and on the same metric, the amount of protein you should be eating. For me, that is 87 kilograms. Times that by 2.2 and we reach roughly 191 pounds. Now, just for ease sake, I just rounded up to 200. What's an extra 9 grams of protein gonna do badly for me?
But what if I only know my weight in stone?
Then piss off, stop being a caveman and use a real unit of measurement like an adult. Now you can track all your protein and your calories by using MyFitnessPal. It's a free app that you can find on Apple, Android, whatever, and you can put it into your computer. We don't use any of those things. You can scan the barcodes of whatever you're eating and just put in the weights of like meats, eggs, whatever, and get a rough estimate based off of that. Just make sure to track every single thing you eat so that you don't end up over or underestimating the amount of calories and protein you're getting in. Don't worry yourself about any of the other nutritional information. That's too much for you right now. Just keep it nice and simple and just worry about calories and protein. You can make it slightly more complicated in the future when you want to. Just don't overthink anything. The beauty of being a beginner in weight training is that pretty much everything works. As long as you don't starve yourself to death, you're going to be able to put on some lean muscle mass. And as always, there's a free workout plan in the description below. Thank you for watching. Godspeed.